I never expected my life to change at a funeral, especially not that funeral. The kind where the sky feels heavier than usual, where the air smells like damp earth and old flowers, and where everyone whispers even when there's no reason to. The casket sat at the front of the small country church, polished walnut, closed. Inside was my grandfather, Walter Hayes. To most people in town, he was just a quiet old man who lived somewhere past the ridge. To me, he was the man who raised me when no one else did. I stood in the second row, hands clasped, staring straight ahead. I hadn't cried yet. I didn't know why. Maybe I was still numb. Maybe I was bracing myself for something I couldn't yet name. The pastor was mid-sentence, speaking softly about legacy, about the land, about a life well lived. When the church doors slammed open, not creaked, not gently opened, slammed. Every head turned. High heels echoed sharply against the wooden floor, fast, angry, deliberate. I recognized her instantly. Linda Carver, the HOA president. She wore black, but not funeral black. Designer black. Sharp blazer, tight skirt, heavy makeup. Her face was twisted in irritation, not grief. She didn't sit. She didn't whisper. She marched straight down the aisle. And then she shouted, "Excuse me!" The pastor froze. So did the room. Linda pointed directly at the casket. "Before this goes any further," she snapped, voice loud and shrill, "we need to know where the will is." A murmur rippled through the church. My stomach dropped. The pastor cleared his throat. "Ma'am, this is a funeral," Linda scoffed. "Exactly, and funerals are where people try to pull things." She turned, scanning the room, eyes sharp like knives. "Walter Hayes owned 900 acres, she said loudly, "and I want to know who thinks they're inheriting it." My hands tightened. My heart started pounding. She spotted me. Her eyes locked onto mine. "And you," she said, pointing, "who are you exactly?" Every face turned toward me. I swallowed. "I'm his grandson," I said quietly. She laughed. A short, cruel laugh. "Grandson?" she repeated. "Funny, no one's ever heard of you." I felt heat rush to my face. Linda folded her arms. "Let me be clear. That land borders Carver Estates. Our HOA has had plans for it for years. Roads, expansion, luxury housing." She gestured vaguely, like the church itself was wasting her time. "So if anyone thinks they're just going to waltz in and claim it," she smiled thinly, "they better have paperwork." The pastor tried again. "Miss Carver, please," but Linda raised her voice. "Where's the will?" Silence. Then I spoke. "He didn't leave one." Her smile widened. "Oh," she said softly, "that's perfect." And in that moment, standing beside my grandfather's coffin, with her smug grin echoing in my ears, I realized something terrible. Linda Carver thought she'd already won. After the funeral, people avoided me. Not because they didn't care, but because they didn't want to be involved. Linda left early, heels clicking triumphantly as she walked out, already on her phone. I heard her say, "Yes, intestate, no will. This is going to be easy." Easy. That word stuck with me. I didn't go back to my hotel. Instead, I drove out past town, past the paved roads, until asphalt turned to gravel and gravel turned to dirt. That land, my grandfather's land, 900 acres of rolling hills, dense forest, creeks, old fencing, and open pasture. It stretched farther than most people could walk in a day. To outsiders, it was unused. To developers, it was wasted potential. To my grandfather, it was everything. I parked near the old barn and stepped out. The place smelled like pine, earth, and rain. Memories hit me all at once, learning to drive on these dirt paths, fixing fence posts at sunrise. My grandfather teaching me how to read land the way other people read books. "This land listens," he used to say, "and it remembers." I walked toward the house. The same house Linda's HOA had complained about for years. Too old, too rural, not compliant. They'd sent letters, threats, fines. My grandfather ignored every single one. Inside, the house was quiet. On the kitchen table sat a stack of unopened mail. HOA notices, legal letters, development offers. I picked one up. Final notice, Carver Estates HOA. I laughed bitterly. They hadn't even waited for him to be buried. That's when I noticed something else. A small leather-bound notebook tucked under a placemat. I opened it. Inside was my grandfather's handwriting. Messy, slanted, familiar. The first page read, "If you're reading this, they're already circling." My heart skipped. I turned the page. The notebook wasn't a will, not legally, but it was a map, a confession, and a warning. My grandfather wrote about Linda Carver by name, about how Carver Estates had been quietly expanding for years, bullying small landowners into selling cheap, then flipping parcels to developers. He wrote about forged surveys, altered boundary markers, HOA emergency meetings that somehow always benefited Linda's family. Then came the line that made my breath catch. They think I don't know what I own. I flipped pages faster. He'd placed the land into a land trust years ago, a conservation trust, quietly, legally, buried under layers of paperwork. And the beneficiary? Me. But only under one condition. They must challenge it. My heart raced. He'd predicted this. He'd wanted them to push. There were deeds attached, survey maps, historical filings going back over a century. And then, at the back of the notebook, one final instruction. When they go to court, let them talk first. I smiled for the first time since the funeral, because Linda Carver had no idea what was coming. The lawsuit came fast. Linda claimed adverse possession. She claimed unpaid HOA fees. She claimed my grandfather had verbally agreed to annex parts of the land. In court, she was confident, smug. She talked too much. Her lawyer argued that without a will, the land should default to county control, then be rezoned. That's when my attorney stood and calmly said, "Your Honor, the land is not, and has never been, subject to this HOA." Linda frowned. The judge raised an eyebrow. We presented the trust, the surveys, the filings, the conservation restrictions, the historical land grants predating the town itself. Linda's face went pale. Her lawyer whispered frantically. Then came the final blow. Evidence that Linda's HOA had illegally collected fees, altered boundary markers, and filed false documents. The judge leaned forward. "Ms. Carver," he said slowly, "do you understand the severity of this?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Carver estates dissolved within months. Fines, penalties, criminal investigations. Linda lost her position, then her house, then her reputation. I inherited the land, all 900 acres. I placed it permanently into conservation. No development, no HOA, no exploitation. Sometimes I walk the hills at sunset and think about that funeral, about her shouting, about her certainty, and I smile. Because my grandfather was right. The land remembers.